The council chamber on Unity Prime Station was cold. Ambassador Daniel sat in the human delegation chair and looked across the massive circular table at the alien representatives. 3 years. 3 long years of coming to this place and asking for reasonable peace terms. 3 years of being told no. Laura stood behind Daniel's chair. She wore her military uniform and kept her face blank. She had learned not to show emotion in this place. The aliens took any sign of feeling as weakness. They thought humans were soft. They thought humans would accept anything just to avoid fighting. High Chancellor sat at the head of the council table. He was tall and covered in gray scales that caught the light. His eyes were dark and cold. Next to him sat Counselor, with red skin and too many teeth. Smiled often but never with kindness. "Let us review the terms once more," said. His voice filled the chamber through the translation devices. "Humanity will surrender all military vessels larger than transport class. You will withdraw from the 5 disputed colony worlds. You will pay tribute to the Council for the next 200 years, and you will allow Council oversight of all human military development." Daniel took a slow breath. These were not peace terms. These were surrender demands, worse than surrender. They wanted humans to become servants. "We have discussed these terms already," Daniel said. His voice was calm and even. "They are not acceptable. We came here to negotiate a real peace, a peace between equals." Laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly. "Equals, you are a young species. You have been in space for less than 300 years. They have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. The for 8,000. What makes you think you are our equals?" Laura felt her jaw tighten. She wanted to speak but held back. This was Daniel's moment. He had been handling this situation with more patience than she could manage. "We are equals because we are here," Daniel said. "We are equals because we have the right to exist without bowing to those who think age grants them authority over others." "Age grants wisdom," said. "Wisdom you clearly lack. Your colonies expand into space we have claimed for. Your ships refuse to follow Council trade routes. Your people resist Council law, yet you come here asking for peace on your terms." "We come here asking for fair terms," Daniel replied. "Terms that respect both sides. We will not expand into your territory. We will follow reasonable trade regulations. But we will not disarm. We will not abandon our colonies. And we will not pay tribute for having the courage to defend ourselves." Counselor Myra, with silver skin and large eyes, shifted in her seat. She had been quiet during most of the negotiations. Now she leaned forward slightly. "Perhaps we could discuss modified terms, something both sides could accept." "There is nothing to discuss," said quickly. He pointed one clawed finger at Daniel. "These humans started a conflict by refusing to leave the outer reach territories when we ordered them to. They fired on our ships when we came to enforce Council law. Now they sit here pretending they have a choice in this matter." "Your ships fired first," Laura said. She could not stay quiet anymore. "Your captain opened fire on a civilian mining station. We responded to protect innocent people. That is not aggression. That is defense." Turned his attention to her. His smile grew wider. "A military officer who does not know her place. How typical of humans. Very well. Let me make this simple for you. You have 2 choices. Accept our terms or face the full might of the Council military. We have 500 species in our alliance. You have 1. The mathematics are not difficult." Daniel stood up. The movement was smooth and controlled. He gathered the data pad in front of him and tucked it under his arm. Laura felt her heart beat faster. She knew what was coming. "Ambassador said, we are not finished here." "Yes, we are," Daniel said. "We have given you 3 years. 3 years of good faith negotiation. 3 years of trying to find common ground, but you are not interested in peace. You are interested in domination. You want us to kneel. You want us to surrender our freedom and our dignity." "You speak as though you have a choice," said. "We do have a choice," Daniel replied. "And we choose to walk away from this table. Humanity withdraws from all peace negotiations with the Galactic Council effective immediately. The chamber went silent. Laura stepped forward and stood next to Daniel. She met the eyes of each council member in turn. Let them see that humans stood together. Leaned back in his chair. You are making a mistake, a terrible mistake. Return to these talks within 10 days, or we will consider you an open rebellion against council authority. Consider whatever you like, Daniel said. We came here in good faith. You showed us who you really are. You showed us that you see us as lesser beings, as creatures to be controlled and used. Thank you for that lesson. It was valuable. You will regret this decision, said. His voice carried a threat that did not need translation. When our fleets arrive at your colonies, when your ships burn, when Earth itself faces our judgment, you will remember this moment. You will remember that you had a chance to submit peacefully. Daniel turned toward the exit. Laura followed him. The other human staff members fell in behind them. They walked in silence, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. No one looked back. Behind them, laughter filled the room. Other council members joined in. The sound followed the humans down the corridor like a wave of mockery. Did not laugh. He watched the humans leave and felt something he had not expected, unease. The human ambassador had not shouted. He had not threatened. He had simply stated facts and walked away with his dignity intact. There was something in Daniel's eyes that did not like, something that looked almost like relief. They will return, said confidently. Give them 5 days, maybe less. They will come crawling back and accept whatever terms we offer. Perhaps, said quietly. Counselor Myra stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars and remembered something her grandmother had told her once. The most dangerous beings in the universe are not the ones who threaten loudly. They are the ones who go quiet and start planning. They will not return, Myra said softly. Of course they will, insisted. They have no other option. They have many options, Myra replied. We just never bothered to ask what those options might be. In the corridor, Daniel and Laura reached their shuttle. They boarded in silence. The doors closed behind them. Only then did Laura speak. What happens now? She asked. Daniel looked at her with eyes that were suddenly very tired but also very clear. Now we stop pretending. Now we show them what humans really are. The shuttle departed from Unity Prime Station. Behind it, the council chamber continued its session. They discussed how to divide human territory once the conquest was complete. They debated which species would get which colonies. They planned a future where humanity no longer existed as a free people. None of them noticed that during 3 years of negotiations, humans had been watching, learning, planning. None of them understood that the patient people sitting across the table had been gathering intelligence on every council species, their strengths, their weaknesses, their military capabilities and supply lines. The council had mistaken human patience for human weakness. They had thought negotiation meant desperation. They were about to learn the difference between a species that could not fight and a species that chose not to fight until given no other choice. The galaxy was about to change, and the Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. Admiral Stephen Carter stood in the command center deep below the surface of Earth. The room was large and filled with displays showing every human military asset across known space. 3 weeks had passed since Ambassador walked out of the council chambers. 3 weeks of silence from humanity. The council kept sending messages. They demanded humanity return to negotiations. They threatened military action. They gave deadlines. Humanity sent nothing back. No replies, no statements, just silence. Admiral, all department heads are assembled, said Lieutenant Lisa Graham from her station. She handled communications for Fleet Command. For 3 weeks, her job had been to delete every message from the council without reading past the first line. Stephen nodded and walked to the center of the room. Around him sat the people who would decide humanity's future. Director Karen from Human Intelligence, Captain Peter Hayes from Special Operations, Engineer Cole from Weapons Development, and a dozen other officers whose names appeared in no public records. "Report," Stephen said simply. Karen stood first. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been working in intelligence for 30 years. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed the Council's military structure in perfect detail. "During the 3 years of peace negotiations, we collected data on every Council species," Karen said. "Every ship type, every weapon system, every supply depot and repair facility. We know their fleet positions. We know their response times. We know which species can fight and which only make threats." The display shifted to show the military. Councilors' people are the Council's primary military force. They have 800 combat vessels, large numbers, but their ships are old. Their weapons are powerful but slow to charge. Their shields have a weakness in the lower frequencies that they have never bothered to fix. Another shift. The fleet appeared. They have fewer ships but better technology, 400 vessels, most of them newer designs. They rely heavily on automated systems. Very few crew members per ship. If you disrupt their computer networks, the ships become floating metal. Stephen watched the display change from species to species. Karen had done incredible work. She had mapped out every detail of the Council military while sitting in peace negotiations and smiling politely. "How did they not notice us gathering all this information?" asked one of the officers. Karen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "They thought we were weak. They thought we were desperate. They never imagined we might be doing anything other than begging for mercy. Arrogance is a wonderful blindfold." Captain Peter Hayes spoke next. He was a big man with scars on his hands from decades of combat. "Special Operations has been busy. We have teams positioned near every major Council military installation. We have infiltrated their supply networks. We have people working as maintenance crews on their stations. They never screen humans carefully because they think we are not a threat." "Define position," Stephen said. "We have assets within striking distance of 70% of Council military infrastructure," Peter replied. "We can disable their communications, their power systems, their defensive grids. We can do it simultaneously across multiple systems. They will go dark before they know what hit them." Cole stood up next. He was young for his position, only 40, but he was the weapons engineer humanity had ever produced. "We have developments the Council does not know about, technologies we kept hidden during the negotiations." The display changed again. This time it showed a sleek black ship that looked like it was built from shadows. "This is our new stealth class. Council sensors cannot detect them, cannot easily detect them, cannot detect them at all. We tested this by parking one outside Unity Prime station for 2 weeks during negotiations. Their best scanning equipment never saw it." Stephen felt a cold satisfaction. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility long before the negotiations failed. They had hoped for peace but planned for war. "What about weapons?" Stephen asked. Grinned. "The Council thinks are our best ship weapons. They are wrong. We have been developing directed energy systems that operate outside normal space. The beam does not travel through real space, so it cannot be blocked by shields. It simply appears at the target." "Does it work?" Stephen asked. "We tested it on an abandoned asteroid in deep space," replied. "The asteroid no longer exists. It did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply stopped being there." The room went quiet. That kind of weapon changed everything. The Council had bigger fleets and more ships, but humanity had better technology. Much better. "There is one more thing," Karen said. She looked uncomfortable, which was rare for her. "We need to discuss Earth itself. The Council thinks Earth is a normal garden world, pleasant, easy to invade if needed. They are very wrong." "Explain," Stephen said. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world by objective galactic standards, Karen said. Most council species evolved on worlds with gentle weather, stable conditions, and few predators. Earth is a nightmare planet by those standards. Our gravity is higher. Our weather is violent. Our diseases are deadly to most species. Our predators are terrifying even by death world standards. So, asked one of the officers. So humanity evolved here, Karen continued. We evolved to survive conditions that kill most galactic species. Our bodies are stronger. Our immune systems are better. Our pain tolerance is higher. The Council has been negotiating with a species that evolved in hell and decided to go explore space for fun. Stephen saw understanding spread through the room. The Council thought they were dealing with a weak species. They had actually been dealing with one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They just never bothered to check. Lisa Graham spoke from her station. Admiral, we are picking up Council military movements. They are positioning fleets near our border territories. It looks like they are preparing for action. Do they know we are ready? Stephen asked. No, sir, Lisa replied. Their communications suggest they think we are panicking. They believe we are scrambling to prepare defenses. They have no idea we have been ready for months. Stephen looked at the display showing human military assets. Ships that the Council thought were merchant vessels were actually combat-ready. Stations that looked like research outposts were actually military strongholds. Colonies that seemed vulnerable were actually fortified beyond anything the Council could imagine. Captain Hayes, Stephen said, are your teams ready? Yes, sir, Peter replied. Say the word and we can begin operations immediately. Not yet, Stephen said. Let them position their forces. Let them commit to their invasion plans. When they move against us, we need them fully committed. Then we show them what they are actually facing. What about casualties? Corinne asked quietly. If this goes badly, a lot of humans could die. Stephen turned to look at her. His face was hard but not cold. If this goes badly, humanity becomes slaves or dies anyway. We tried peace. We spent 3 years trying peace. They chose this path, not us. We are just walking down it with our eyes open. Mills sat in the captain's chair of his merchant ship, the Lucky Fortune. He hauled cargo between human colonies, a simple job that paid well enough. He was traveling through deep space, far from any inhabited system, when his sensors picked up something strange. What is that? He muttered to himself. He adjusted the sensors and looked at the display again. Then he stopped breathing for a moment. Ships, hundreds of ships, human warships assembled in deep space where no one should see them. They were not moving. They were just waiting. Massive carriers, sleek destroyers, ships built for war sitting in perfect formation. New military formations when he saw them. He had served in the fleet for 10 years before becoming a merchant captain. This was not a defensive force. This was an attack fleet. This was humanity preparing to hit someone very hard. He checked his records. This area of space was listed as empty. No scheduled exercises. No reported activity, which meant this fleet was here in secret, which meant the Council had no idea it existed. Plotted a jump to the nearest human colony and engaged his engines. Someone needed to know what he had seen. Then he stopped. If the military wanted this fleet to be secret, telling people about it might cause problems. He sent a coded message to Fleet Command instead, reporting what he had found and asking for instructions. The reply came back in minutes. It was short and direct. Maintain silence. Proceed to destination. Your service is noted. Sat back in his chair and looked at the display one more time before he jumped away. The Council thought humanity was weak. They thought humans would surrender or beg for mercy. Had just seen proof that they were very wrong. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Council was making plans to punish humanity. They were moving fleets and preparing invasions. They thought they were dealing with a minor species that got lucky a few times. They had no idea that humanity had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. They had no idea that every human ship, every human station, every human colony was ready for war. They had no idea that the patient diplomats sitting across the table had been warriors showing mercy. The council was about to learn a hard lesson, and that lesson was going to be written in the wreckage of their fleets. Captain Pierce sat in the command chair of the stealth ship Shadow Wind. Around her, the bridge was dark and quiet. Her crew worked at their stations with minimal sound. They had been trained to operate in complete silence when needed. Right now, they were watching a military fleet prepare to attack a human mining colony called New Hope. "Status," said softly. "Fleet is holding position 3 million kilometers from the colony," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Chris Morton. 42 combat vessels. They are charging weapons and preparing to move in." Looked at the display. The commander was taking his time. He wanted the humans to see him coming. He wanted them to be afraid. Counselor had sent this fleet to teach humanity a lesson. He was about to learn one instead. "Any sign they have detected us?" asked. "None, Captain," said Sanders from the electronic warfare station. She was young but brilliant. "Their sensors are sweeping right past us. We are invisible to them." "Good," said. She opened a secure channel to the other stealth ships in her group. "All units prepare for operation. We go on my mark. Remember, no one fires a weapon. This is a demonstration." 6 weeks had passed since humanity walked out of the peace talks. The Council had been patient by their standards. They had given humanity time to reconsider, time to come crawling back. When the humans stayed silent, the Council decided to use force. This attack on New Hope was the first of many planned operations. The Council would destroy a small human colony, show the rest of humanity what happened to those who Galactic law. Then humanity would surrender, or so the Council believed. Colonel Jake stood in the Marine barracks on the assault carrier Silent Justice. His Marines were ready. They had been ready for weeks. They were not going to defend New Hope from the station itself. They were going to do something much more direct. "Listen up," Jake said to his Marines. They gathered around him in full combat gear. "This is not a battle. This is a capture operation. We are going to board vessels and disable them without killing anyone if possible. They are here to attack human civilians. We are here to show them why that is a bad idea." "What if they resist, sir?" asked Sergeant Park. "Then you do what you are trained to do," Jake replied. "But remember, we are not here to start a war. We are here to end one before it really begins. The Council thinks we are weak. Let us teach them the difference between weak and patient." The Marines checked their equipment. They had practiced this kind of operation hundreds of times, boarding hostile vessels, disabling them from inside, getting out before the enemy knew what happened. But this would be the first time they did it for real against the Council. Back on Shadow Wind, watched the fleet begin to move. They were heading toward New Hope in a standard attack formation. Weapons charged, shields up. They looked powerful and confident. "All units execute on my mark," said calmly. 3, 2, 1, mark. What happened next would be discussed in military academies for generations. The fleet was moving forward when every single ship suddenly went dark. Engines stopped. Weapons powered down. Life support switched to emergency backup. Shields collapsed. Communications died. Inside the flagship, Counselor stood on the bridge and stared at dead displays. "What happened? Report." His crew rushed to check systems. Nothing responded. The main computer was not accepting commands. Backup systems were not engaging. It was as if the ship had simply decided to stop being a ship. "We are dead in space," reported the tactical officer. "All systems offline. I cannot even access the diagnostic programs." "How is this possible?" demanded. "We have backups, we have redundancies. Get this ship operational now." What did not know was that for 3 years, humans had been selling components to the Council. Repair parts, computer chips, sensor equipment. All of it had worked perfectly. All of it had seemed legitimate. And all of it had hidden that Sanders had just activated. Every ship in the fleet was now completely helpless. They could not move, could not fight, could not even call for help. They were floating metal boxes waiting for something to happen. Smiled, send in the Marines. The assault carriers that the Council thought were not in the area suddenly appeared. They had been hiding in the sensor shadow of a nearby moon. Marine launched and headed toward the helpless vessels. Jake sat in the lead and watched the flagship grow larger on the screen. Remember, non-lethal where possible. We are making a point, not making corpses. They attached to the ships like remeras on a shark. Cutting tools made quick work of the outer hulls. Marines poured through the breaches in organized teams. The crew tried to resist, but they were confused and scattered. Their ship was dead. Strange humans were appearing from nowhere. Their weapons did not work properly because the ship's power grid was offline. Jake led his team to the bridge of the flagship. They moved through corridors with practiced efficiency. A few guards tried to block their path. The Marines used stun weapons and moved past them. They reached the bridge door and cut through it in seconds. Counselor turned and saw human Marines entering his bridge. He reached for his sidearm. Jake was faster. A stun blast hit in the chest and he collapsed to the floor. Secure the bridge, Jake ordered. Pull all the data cores. Disable the self-destruct if they have one. We are taking this ship apart from the inside. Across the fleet, the same scene played out on 42 ships. Human Marines boarded, secured, and disabled every vessel. The entire operation took less than 20 minutes. Not a single human casualty. A few dozen wounded, none seriously. And most importantly, every ship was now completely helpless. When it was done, Jake stood on the bridge of the flagship and opened a channel to all vessels. This is Colonel Jake of Human Military Forces. Your ships have been disabled. Your crews are unharmed. You came here to attack human civilians. That will not happen. You will be left here for your people to recover. Your ships will take days to repair even with help. Consider this a lesson in consequences. He cut the channel and turned to his Marines. Pull out. Leave their life support working. We are not here to kill anyone. The Marines to there. The assault carriers retrieved them and vanished into the darkness of space. The stealth ships remained hidden, watching to make sure Council rescue forces could reach the disabled fleet. Pierce looked at her displays and allowed herself a small smile. Mission complete. All ships returned to rally point, silent running. The human ships disappeared as quietly as they had arrived. Behind them, 42 warships drifted helplessly in space. Their crews were alive but humiliated. Their commander was unconscious on his own bridge. Their mission was a complete failure. And this was happening in 12 other locations across Council space at exactly the same time. High Chancellor received the reports in his office on Unity Prime. At first, he thought there was a mistake. 12 military operations against Council forces, all of them successful. Not one human ship detected before the attacks, not one human casualty reported, and hundreds of Council vessels disabled or captured. Hal asked quietly. He was alone in his office staring at the reports. How did they do this? His communications officer appeared on the display screen. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from human forces. It is addressed to you personally. Put it through, said. The screen changed. Ambassador Daniel appeared. He looked exactly as he had 6 weeks ago when he walked out of the Council chambers. Calm, professional, and now undeniably dangerous. High Chancellor, Daniel said, I am sending you a data file. It contains a complete list of every Council military asset that humanity has disabled in the past 3 hours. Ships, stations, supply depots, communications relays. We know where everything is. We know how everything works. And we can shut it all down whenever we choose. Felt something cold settle in his stomach. You attacked us. This is an act of war. No, Daniel replied. This is a response to attempted aggression. Your forces were moving to attack human civilians. We stopped them. We did not destroy them. We did not kill their crews. We simply showed you that we can reach any Council military asset at any time without being detected. You had this capability all along, said slowly. Understanding was beginning to dawn. During the negotiations, you could have attacked us at any time. Yes, Daniel said simply. We could have, but we chose peace. We spent 3 years trying to find a diplomatic solution. You chose to mock us. You chose to make impossible demands. You chose to threaten us. We are now demonstrating what those choices have consequences. What do you want? Asked. I want you to understand something very clearly, Daniel said. His voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath. Humanity never wanted this. We wanted peace. We wanted cooperation. We wanted to be partners in a galactic community. You treated us as inferiors to be controlled. You are now seeing what humans are really capable of when we stop being polite. The screen went dark, sat in his office and felt the weight of his mistakes settling on his shoulders. The Council had a military advantage in numbers. They had more ships, more species, more resources. But humanity had something more important. They had better technology, better training, and the ability to strike anywhere without warning. The Council had thought humanity was weak. They had thought human patience was desperation. They had been wrong, catastrophically wrong. And now the galaxy was going to find out just how dangerous humans could be when they stopped trying to make peace and started defending themselves instead. The Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other across the circular table. 8 weeks had passed since humanity walked out of peace negotiations. 3 hours had passed since humanity demonstrated what they were truly capable of. High Chancellor sat at the head of the table and tried to maintain order. It was not working. Fear had replaced arrogance in the chamber. The Council members who had laughed at humanity 3 years ago were not laughing anymore. Order shouted, "We must have order." Slowly, the shouting died down. Counselor sat in his chair looking pale. He had just returned from the medical bay where they treated the stun blast effects. His pride hurt worse than his body. The humans had disabled his entire fleet without breaking a sweat. They had boarded his flagship and he could do nothing to stop them. "We must respond with force," said. His voice was weaker than usual. "Gather the full Council military. Show humanity what happens when you attack us." "They did not attack us," said Counselor Myra. She looked tired, but her voice was clear. "They defended themselves from our attack. There is a difference." "They disabled 300 of our ships," shouted. "How is that not an attack?" "Because all of our crews are alive," Myra replied. "Because they could have destroyed every ship and chose not to. Because they sent us a message instead of a declaration of war. They are still offering us a chance to think clearly." "She is correct," said quietly. He activated the display in the center of the chamber. It showed data from the human operations. "Look at these reports carefully. Every operation was surgical, precise. They disabled our ships and left them for us to recover. Not one crew member was killed unnecessarily. A few wounded, none dead. These are not the actions of a species seeking war. These are the actions of a species making a point." "What point?" asked a counselor from the species. "That they can humiliate us whenever they want." "That they can reach us whenever they want," said. "That they can strike without warning. That they have capabilities we never suspected. And most importantly, that they have been showing restraint all along." The chamber went quiet. Slowly, the implications became clear to everyone present. For 3 years, humanity had sat in this chamber and negotiated politely. For 3 years, they had accepted insults and impossible demands without striking back. Not because they could not strike, because they chose not to strike. Myra stood and walked to the center of the chamber. "I had intelligence services investigate human capabilities after the negotiations ended. I want to share what they found, what we should have known all along." She activated her own display. Earth appeared in the center of the chamber, slowly rotating. This is Earth, the human. We classified it as a standard garden world. We were wrong. Earth meets the criteria for a Class 12 death world. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Death worlds were rare. Species from death worlds were considered among the most dangerous in the galaxy. Earth has extreme weather, Myra continued. Hurricanes that can level cities, tornadoes that can destroy everything in their path, earthquakes and volcanoes that can kill thousands, and humans evolved to survive all of this. The display changed to show human physiology. Look at their bodies, high bone density for their size, efficient cardiovascular system, advanced immune system that can fight diseases lethal to most species. They evolved as pursuit predators. They can track prey for days. They can survive injuries that would kill us. They can adapt to almost any environment. Why did we not know this? Asked the counselor. Because we never asked, Myra said. We assumed we knew everything we needed to know. We saw that humans were polite in negotiations and assumed they were weak. We never investigated their true capabilities. The display changed again. This time it showed human military history. The species humanity defeated before reaching space were not weak. They had shields and plasma weapons. They had numerical superiority. Humanity beat them both, not through luck, through better tactics, better training, and better adaptation to circumstances. Stood up though he swayed slightly. This changes nothing. We still have superior numbers, 500 species against one. We can overwhelm them through sheer force. Can we? Myra asked. They just disabled 300 of our ships without being detected. They have stealth technology that makes them invisible to our sensors. They have weapons systems we did not know existed. And they have been preparing for conflict while we assumed they would surrender. Admiral Stephen Carter stood in the observation deck of Earth Command and looked at the reports coming in. The operations had gone better than expected. Not a single human casualty. All objectives achieved. The Council was in disarray. We have incoming ships approaching Unity Prime, reported Lisa Graham. One human vessel. Registry shows it as the diplomatic courier Morning Star. Stephen smiled. That will be Ambassador Brooks, right on schedule. Tyler Brooks sat in the command chair of Morning Star and watched Unity Prime Station grow larger on his screen. He had been a diplomat for 20 years before this. Now, he was about to deliver the most important message of his career. Station Control is hailing us, said his pilot. They want to know our intentions. Tell them Ambassador Tyler Brooks requests an audience with the Galactic Council, Tyler said. Tell them it is urgent. The station was on high alert. Council security vessels surrounded Morning Star. Their weapons were charged. They were not taking any chances after the recent attacks. Tyler walked through the corridors of Unity Prime with 2 security escorts. Council guards watched him carefully. Some of them looked frightened. Good. Fear meant they were starting to understand reality. He reached the council chambers and the doors opened. The chamber was full. Every counselor was present. They sat in their seats and watched Tyler walk to the center of the room. He carried a single data pad. Ambassador Brooks said, "We did not expect humanity to return so soon. Have you come to discuss surrender terms?" Tyler looked up at the High Chancellor. He did not smile, but his eyes were hard. "No, Chancellor. I have come to deliver humanity's terms for peace." The chamber erupted in angry voices, stood and shouted over the noise. "You dare make demands of us, after attacking our forces?" Tyler waited for the noise to die down. Then he spoke in a calm, clear voice that carried through the chamber. "We did not attack your forces. We defended ourselves from your aggression. Your fleet was moving to attack human civilians. We stopped them. We did not destroy them. We showed restraint even when defending ourselves. That restraint is now ending." He activated the data pad. A holographic display filled the chamber. It showed human military assets across known space, ships, stations, weapons platforms. The council members stared at the display. There were far more human military forces than they had known about. "This is what humanity has been building while you made impossible demands," Tyler said. "We tried peace. We spent 3 years trying to find common ground. You treated us with contempt. You demanded we surrender our freedom. You thought we were weak." "You are one species," said quietly. "We are 500. "Quality beats quantity," Tyler replied. "We have better technology, better training, better intelligence, and we have something you lack: unity. Every human in this galaxy understands what we are fighting for. Can you say the same about your alliance?" He was right, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The Council was a loose alliance of species with different goals and different interests. Many of them had joined for protection or trade benefits. Few of them would actually fight if the cost became too high. "These are humanity's terms," Tyler said. He sent the data to every counselor's display. "Complete withdrawal of all Council military forces from human territory. Formal apology from the Council for 3 years of bad faith negotiations. Reparations for the resources we spent trying to find peace. And recognition of humanity as an equal power with full voting rights in the Council." "Unacceptable," said immediately. "We will never agree to such terms." "Then we will dismantle the Council's ability to threaten anyone," Tyler said. His voice was still calm, but the threat was clear. "We can shut down your ships. We can destroy your stations. We can do all of this without you ever seeing us coming. You have 48 hours to accept our terms or face the consequences." "You would go to war with the entire galaxy?" asked. "No," Tyler replied. "We would go to war with the Council leadership that refuses to treat us with respect. Most Council species are peaceful. Most of them want fair trade and cooperation. It is your leadership that demands submission. Remove that leadership or we will remove it for you." Myra stood up. "Ambassador Brooks, may I ask a question?" "Of course, Counselor," Tyler said. "What does humanity truly want?" Myra asked. "If you wanted to conquer, you would have struck harder. If you wanted to destroy us, you would have killed our crews. What is your actual goal?" Tyler looked at her and saw the first glimmer of real understanding in the chamber. "We want what we have always wanted, Counselor: peace. Real peace between equals, not submission, not domination, partnership. We want to be part of a galactic community that respects all species. We want trade. We want cultural exchange. We want to explore the stars together, but we will not kneel to achieve it." Christina Wells stood in the media center on Earth and watched the broadcast from Unity Prime. Humanity had made a decision. This meeting would be broadcast to the entire galaxy. Everyone would see what happened. Everyone would know that humans were not weak. They were patient. There was a difference. The broadcast showed Tyler standing in the council chamber. It showed the human terms on display. It showed council members arguing among themselves. The galaxy was watching, and the galaxy was learning. Tyler turned toward the exit. He had delivered humanity's message. Now the council had to decide. Would they accept reality and make peace? Or would they continue down a path that could only end in their defeat? 48 hours, Tyler said as he reached the door. Choose wisely. He walked out of the chamber in silence. Behind him, the council exploded into argument and debate. Some demanded war. Some called for peace. Some just sat in shock, trying to understand how the situation had changed so completely. Counselor attempted to have Tyler arrested at the station exit, but the station security commander refused the order. He had seen the reports from the recent operations. He knew humanity could destroy Unity Prime Station if they wanted. He was not about to start a fight with people who could appear anywhere and strike without warning. Tyler boarded Morning Star and departed from Unity Prime. As his ship jumped away, he allowed himself a small smile. The council would accept the terms. They had no real choice. The alternative was a war they could not win against an enemy they could not find. The galaxy was changing, and the Galactic Council was finally learning that human patience should never be mistaken for human weakness. The vote happened 36 hours after Tyler Brooks delivered humanity's terms. High Chancellor looked at the display showing the results. 412 species voted to accept human terms. 73 voted against. 15 abstained. The Council had spoken. Counselor sat in his chair and stared at nothing. His faction had lost completely. His military career was over. His political power was gone. And worst of all, he knew he had brought this on himself. He had pushed for harder terms during negotiations. He had mocked human weakness. He had ordered the attack on New Hope Colony. Every decision had been wrong. "The motion passes," announced. "The Council will accept human peace terms in full. Counselor, you and your senior staff are removed from all military and political positions effective immediately. A formal inquiry will investigate your conduct during the negotiations." Stood slowly. He looked around the chamber at the species who had supported him. Most would not meet his eyes. He had led them into disaster, and they knew it. He walked toward the exit with his head down. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Counselor Myra watched him go and felt no satisfaction. There was no victory in this situation. Only the bitter taste of lessons learned too late. She stood and addressed the council. "We must do more than accept these terms," Myra said. "We must understand why we are in this position. We failed as leaders. We failed as diplomats. We saw a species that was different from us and assumed they were inferior. We must never make this mistake again." 2 weeks later, High Chancellor walked down the steps of his personal shuttle onto Earth's surface. It was his first time on a death world. The gravity felt heavy. The air felt thick. The sun was too bright and too hot. He understood now why humans were so strong. They had evolved in conditions that would kill most species within days. A human delegation waited for him. Ambassador Daniel stood at the front. He looked exactly as he had during the negotiations. Professional, calm, dignified, felt shame when he remembered how they had treated this man. "High Chancellor," Daniel said. He offered a human handshake. "Welcome to Earth." Took the offered hand. The human grip was firm but not crushing, a measured show of strength. "Thank you for receiving me, Ambassador. I know my presence here is not welcome." "You are wrong," Daniel replied. "Your presence here is necessary for both our peoples. Please come with me." They walked through a park near the human Capitol building. Saw humans going about their daily lives. Children playing. Families enjoying the sunshine. These were not warriors. These were ordinary people living ordinary lives. Yet all of them had evolved to survive conditions he could barely tolerate. "I owe you an apology," said as they walked. "A personal apology, not just the official one from the council. I treated you with disrespect during the negotiations. I dismissed your concerns. I allowed to mock your people. I was wrong." "Yes, you were," Daniel said simply. "But you are here now. That counts for something." They reached a memorial in the center of the park. It showed the names of humans who had died in conflicts with other species over the past centuries. Thousands of names carved into stone. Read some of them and felt the weight of each life lost. "We did not want war with the Council," Daniel said quietly. "Every name on this memorial represents someone who died because diplomacy failed. We have seen enough death. We wanted peace with you, real peace, not submission disguised as peace." "I understand that now," said, "but help me understand something. You had the capability to destroy us at any time during the negotiations. Why did you sit there for 3 years? Why did you tolerate our behavior?" "Because war should always be the last option," Daniel replied. "Because killing should only happen when there is no other choice. We are capable of great violence, Chancellor, but we are also capable of great patience. We hoped you would eventually see reason. When you did not, we had to show you reality." Admiral Stephen Carter met with Council military leaders in a secure facility. The mood was tense but professional. The Council officers looked at the human displays showing military technology and felt a mix of fear and respect. "This is our stealth system," Stephen explained. He showed them specifications that made their best sensors useless. "We developed it specifically because we knew conflict with the Council was possible. We hoped we would never need to use it." "How long have you had this technology?" asked the Admiral. 8 years, Stephen replied. "We have had time to prepare, but understand something important. We did not prepare because we wanted war. We prepared because we have learned that hopping for peace is not enough. You must be ready to defend peace when others threaten it." A general spoke up. "Your Marines disabled our ships without killing anyone. That was intentional." "Of course," Stephen said. "Our orders were clear. Disable but do not destroy. Capture but do not kill. We wanted to make a point, not commit genocide. There is a difference between defending yourself and becoming a monster." The Council officers looked at each other. This was not how they had expected humanity to behave. They had thought humans would be vengeful after years of poor treatment. Instead, the humans were professional and even helpful. They were sharing technology. They were explaining their methods. They were building bridges instead of walls. Counselor Myra visited the Human Military Academy. She wanted to understand where human strength really came from. What she saw shocked her. Young humans trained in conditions that would hospitalize most species. They ran for miles carrying heavy equipment. They practiced combat in extreme heat and cold. They learned to function without sleep for days. And they did all of this willingly, even eagerly. A young man named Brandon Cole finished a training exercise and walked past Myra. He was breathing hard but smiling. He could not be more than 20 years old. She stopped him. "Excuse me," Myra said through her translator. "May I ask you a question?" "Of course, Counselor," Brandon replied. He stood straight and gave her his full attention. "What would you like to know?" "Why do you do this?" Myra asked. "Why train so hard? Why push yourself to these limits?" Brandon thought for a moment. "Because someone has to be ready. Because if we are strong, maybe we do not have to fight. Because the galaxy is dangerous and our families need protection. And because if we do have to fight, we want to win quickly so fewer people die." "You are so young," Myra said. "Do you not want a peaceful life?" "I want peace more than anything," Brandon replied. "But I learned something in history class. Peace does not happen because everyone suddenly becomes nice. Peace happens because those who want it are strong enough to defend it. My grandparents fought in wars. My parents negotiated for peace. Now it is my turn to make sure that peace lasts." He saluted and returned to his training. Myra watched him go and finally understood. Human strength did not come from technology or tactics. It came from a culture that valued both peace and the ability to defend it. They were not warlike. They were practical. The new treaty was signed 10 weeks after humanity walked out of the original peace talks. Ambassador Daniel and High Chancellor sat at a table in the human capital and signed the documents. This time, the terms were fair. This time, both sides treated each other with respect. "This treaty establishes humanity as an equal member of the Galactic Council," said as he signed his section. "You will have full voting rights. Your territory will be respected. Your trade will be protected under Council law. In return, humanity will share our stealth technology with Council security forces," Daniel said. "We will help defend Council space from external threats. We will participate in joint military exercises and scientific research. We will be partners." Counselor Myra stood and addressed the assembled crowd. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to witness this moment. Let this day be remembered as the moment the Galactic Council learned an important lesson. Strength does not mean domination. Power does not mean cruelty. And patience should never be mistaken for weakness. The crowd applauded. It was not just humans celebrating. Many council species had been uncomfortable with how humanity was treated during negotiations. They were relieved to see justice finally done. Later that day, Daniel walked through the same park where he had met with. Laura joined him. She had been his military advisor through all 3 years of negotiations. She had watched him maintain his composure under terrible conditions. "We did it," Laura said, "real peace." "Yes," Daniel replied, "but it cost us 3 years of our lives, 3 years of being insulted and dismissed. I wonder sometimes if we should have shown our strength earlier." "No," Laura said firmly. "You did the right thing. We gave them every chance. We showed them we were willing to be reasonable. When they refused, we had the moral high ground. History will remember that we tried everything before we acted." Daniel nodded. She was right. The galaxy now knew that humanity had spent 3 years genuinely seeking peace. When they finally demonstrated their power, no one could claim they had been aggressive. They had simply been pushed too far. Admiral Stephen Carter stood in front of a holographic display showing the new Council security arrangements. Human officers would work alongside Council forces. Human technology would strengthen Council defenses. Human ships would patrol alongside Council vessels. "This is better than the original arrangement," Stephen said to his staff. "We are not subordinate. We are not isolated. We are partners with the ability to defend our interests." "Do you think the peace will last?" asked Lisa Graham. "As long as both sides remember the lessons learned," Stephen replied. "The Council learned not to underestimate us. We learned that we must always be ready to defend ourselves. Those are good lessons, expensive lessons, but good ones." 3 months after the treaty signing, Brandon Cole graduated from the military academy. His family attended the ceremony. His parents were proud. His younger sister was impressed. His grandmother, who had survived 3 wars, cried tears of relief. "You will probably never see combat," his instructor told the graduating class. "The new treaty has created real peace, but your training was not wasted. Because you are ready, because humanity is strong, the galaxy will think twice before threatening us. Your strength creates peace. Remember that." Brandon stood with his fellow graduates and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, hundreds of species were going about their lives, trading, exploring, building, and they were doing it in peace because humanity had shown the galaxy that peaceful species could also be strong species. The Galactic Council chambers looked different now. The human delegation had a proper section with chairs designed for human comfort. No one spoke to them with contempt. No one made impossible demands. When Ambassador Daniel spoke, the council listened with respect. The seat where Counselor had sat remained empty. It had been left that way deliberately as a reminder that arrogance has consequences, a reminder that underestimating others is dangerous, a reminder that peace requires mutual respect, not force. Counselor Myra often looked at that empty chair during council sessions. She had tried to warn them. She had tried to make them understand that the quiet humans across the table were not weak. They had not listened. Now they had learned, the hard way. But from that hard lesson came real understanding. The council had changed. They no longer assumed that patience meant powerlessness. They no longer treated younger species as inferior. They had learned to respect strength even when it was not openly displayed. And humanity had learned too. They had learned that you cannot rely on others to be reasonable. You must be ready to defend yourself. You must be strong enough that others think twice before threatening you. Peace through strength was not just a saying. It was a reality. The galaxy moved forward. Ships traveled between systems, trade flourished, scientific discoveries were shared, and through it all humanity stood as an equal partner, not conquered, not submissive, not isolated, equal. The peace talks had failed, but from that failure came something better, a peace built on honesty instead of delusion, a peace built on respect instead of fear, a peace that would last because both sides understood each other. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. Humanity would always prefer peace, but if you forced them to fight, you would discover that humans were very good at it. And that knowledge, that understanding, created a peace more stable than any treaty signed under threat. The stars shone down on Earth. Humanity looked up at them and saw not threats but possibilities. They had earned their place in the galaxy, not through conquest, not through submission, through strength tempered by wisdom and patience backed by power. And that was worth more than any peace gained through weakness ever could be.